Hey everybody, it's Randy Wright. Welcome back to Driftwood Ranch and the second in my 2024 library tour. This is bookcase number 1, bookshelf number 2. I guarantee you I'm going to screw that up before this whole series is over. But at any rate, you're still going to get to watch cool videos of a cool guy talking about the books on his shelves. So what could go wrong? I'm going to do something a little different in this video. These books are a little older, a little bit different. Instead of reading the jackets and the quotes and the summaries, I'm going to let these books speak for themselves. I'm going to give them each a paragraph or so of their own stuff. And, I'm going to have the usual running commentary on where I got these books and why. The first book on this particular shelf is called Whipples Castle, an American novel by Thomas Williams. And I believe this is long out of print. The edition that I have here is the book club edition, and book club was different when this was published because this came out in 1968. Okay, so here it is. I bought it at a used bookstore. This is not in great shape. It's just a reading copy, but you can see there's a little bit of water damage here and stuff. But you got a picture of the author on the back. If that's not the idea of what a literary person in 1968 was supposed to look like, I'll eat my shorts. But I'm not going to read what's on the back. And I'm not going to read what's on the inside here. I found this book because it was highly recommended by Stephen King. And for whatever reason, on that particular day, I was interested in what Stephen King might recommend. I believe this is the third novel in a series of novels set in a particular area. So this is from part 1. This is on page 3. Okay, the page numbering has always been weird to me in these books. But anyway, I'm just gonna read this first paragraph here, and this will be my first time reading it too. I don't really know what to expect from this book, but okay. So, chapter 1. One evening in November of 1942, in the town of Lee, New Hampshire, the first real snow was falling. In the town square at 5 o'clock, the big flakes fell slowly out of the darkness into the light from the store windows. They fell silently upon the bandstand, upon the long limbs of the elms, upon the few parked cars. Everything became bundled up and soft, and the snow still fell. Horace Whipple had just come out of Trask's pharmacy, where he had been sent by his father to buy a bottle of aspirin, and he stood on the sidewalk in his leather-topped boots. Where did the sidewalk end and the street begin? It was all so clean. It was all so cold. He was happy for the snow and hoped that it would never stop. From Bank Street across the square came the dim lights of the plow truck, yellow as distant fires, the softened jangle and clank of tire chains, and the submerged boom of the plow. Okay, so that's a pretty good description of snow in a 1942 town. And I'm intrigued. I mean, I don't feel like this is going to be a hard read. And, the guy seems a competent enough wordsmith. So who knows what the plot holds in store or what kind of themes it covers or anything like that, or if the guy's good at characterization or not. I'm going to find out when I get around to reading it. But I hadn't read it yet, but I'm still going to. Okay, so the next book here is a copy of Gore Vidal's Lincoln. And boy, you want to talk about a beat up copy. I don't even have the slip cover for this. What do they call those things? Anyway, it doesn't matter. You know what I'm talking about. So anyway, I've read most of this, but not all of it. It is indeed a mammoth book, or it's a mammoth for me anyway. It's at least 650 pages. But Vidal's a good writer. I remember that. And I remember how much I enjoyed what I did read of this before, so I'm definitely going to return to it. But I'm going to read a couple of paragraphs off the first page of this one, too. Chapter 1. Elihu B. Washburn opened his gold watch. The spidery hands showed 5 minutes to 6. "Wait here," he said to the driver, who said, "How do I know you're coming back, sir?" At the best of times, Congressman Washburn's temper was a most unstable affair, and his sudden outbursts of rage, he could roar like a preacher anticipating hell, were much admired in his adopted state of Illinois, where constituents proudly claimed that he was the only militant teetotaler who behaved exactly like a normal person at 5 minutes to 6, say in the early morning of an icy winter day, of the 23rd of February, 1861 to be exact. So anyway, I don't think I have to introduce Gore Vidal to most people. I may find a better copy of this at some point, but I like the fact that it's in hardcover and it's easier for me to handle than the mass market paperback, which I believe is the one that I attempted before. And like a lot of these books that I've not finished, I didn't DNF it. I just set it aside for several years. It wasn't that it was a bad book. I'm just easily distracted, folks. So this next book I got, I don't even know where I got some of these. They've been in my library for so long. This is the Novels of Dashiell Hammett from the International Collectors Library. And so, okay, I know where I got this from. It's from the library of a friend of mine. But this is a 1965 edition. And so it is pretty old. It's pretty good shape for that. I guess Dashiell Hammett wrote 5 novels. Okay, there's Red Harvest, which I understand has been the basis for many movies, including some samurai films and some westerns. The Dane Curse, which I know nothing about. The Maltese Falcon, which is famous because it was a movie with Humphrey Bogart. And as obsessed as I am with film noir, that's one of the ones that I haven't seen, actually. And then there's The Glass Key and The Thin Man. The Glass Key was also made into a film noir. And The Thin Man, of course, was made into a film. So, let's see. Red Harvest. Chapter 1, A Woman in Green and a Man in Gray. I first heard Personville called Poisonville by a red-haired mucker named Hickey Dewey in The Big Ship in Butte. He also called his shirt a shoit. I didn't think anything of what he had done to the city's name. Later, I heard men who could manage their R's give it the same pronunciation. I still didn't see anything in it but the meaningless sort of humor that used to make Richard Snary the thieves' word for dictionary. A few years later, I went to Personville and learned better. Using one of the phones in the station, I called the Herald, asked for Donald Wilson, and told him I had arrived. That's some great, straightforward writing there. I think I'm going to enjoy Dashiell Hammett. I've read a lot of Raymond Chandler, and I've read a lot of the hard-boiled crime fiction from that era. Dashiell Hammett, I haven't even scratched the surface of yet. So that'll be fun, 5 novels to read. Speaking of noir, okay, I've got this cute little book called Noir Movies. How did this get so dirty? Facts, figures, and fun. It's dirty, but I'm going to clean it up. When we finish making this video, I'm going to clean this one up. And it's a survey of the best and the worst of the world of noir movies, which I'm obsessed with. I absolutely adore film noir. So, this one is a little different from a lot of them. The inside of it looks great still. I don't know what happened to the dust cover. Contents. So what do you mean by noir? Dashiell Hammett in the movies. We just looked at the Dashiell Hammett book. They shot at night with gun and camera. The great noir directors. And they mentioned Claude Chabrol and Billy Wilder in the... and I've seen movies from both of them. I've seen almost all of Billy Wilder's films, especially the noirs. Raymond Chandler in the movies. A library of classic era noir. 1941, Citizen Kane, which is great. And a lot of people don't think about Citizen Kane as a noir, but it certainly qualifies. 1962, The Manchurian Candidate. James N. Cain in the movies. A library of neo-noir. 1971, Clute. 2004, Collateral. Collateral was a terrific film. Cornell Woolrich in the movies. A library of international noir. 1940s Gaslight. 2002, Dirty Pretty Things. Jim Thompson in the movies. Big fan of Jim Thompson. A library of fantasy noir. 1942, Cat People. Nice one to include here. 2004, The Forgotten. Patricia Highsmith in the movies. The Edgar Awards. And then there's a bibliography. So I'm going to see. So what do you mean by noir? And so, beautiful little book. It's got all kinds of cool illustrations in it and stuff. But, okay, so this is the So What Do You Mean by Noir chapter. The term film noir was coined by the French to describe the new breed of cinema they perceived at the end of World War II, when suddenly they were able to see several years' worth of American movies that had been barred from them during the Nazi occupation. The term derived from the name of a highly successful line of American and pseudo-American hard-boiled mysteries published by Gallimard under the series title Series Noir. The series was so called because of the book's uniform black covers. The French saw the movies as being the cinematic equivalent of those books. and so on and so on. And I've got other bigger books about film noir than that, but that's the one on this shelf. So it's the pertinent one right now, right? Anyway, cool book. And, okay, so I'm obsessed with film noir, but also I own SpaghettiWesterns.org. So if you ever want to sample some of Randy Ray's writing, there's some of it there over at SpaghettiWesterns.org. But I have this book here. This is a Camera Books book by Howard Hughes, not the Howard Hughes, but another Howard Hughes, called Spaghetti Westerns. It's a short guide to spaghetti westerns. Camera books are essential reading for anyone interested in film and popular culture. They include lively, engaged discussion, historical overviews, in-depth film analysis, revealing facts and figures, interviews with filmmakers, and comprehensive resources guides to further reading and viewing. And they've got a list of the movies that it covers on the back. The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, which I've seen, of course, everybody has. For a few dollars more, Death Rides a Horse, My Name is Nobody. I've seen all these. The Big Gun Down, Django Kills Sabata. Django I've seen. Blind Man Navajo, I love Navajo. It's Burt Reynolds' movie. Compañeros, A Fistful of Dollars, They Call Me Trinity. Cemetery Without Crosses, Once Upon a Time in the West, which is also terrific. A Pistol for Ringo, Duck, You Sucker, which I think is a terrible title for a movie. I like A Fistful of Dynamite better, which was one of the alternate titles for that movie. Keoma, Face to Face, and The Big Silence. The Big Silence is on my to-watch list this month. So anyway, this is a nice little book, UK publication. The table of contents looks like this. You've got Chapter 1, Spaghetti Westerns, introducing the gang. The rest of the chapters are based on years. Rome on the Range, 1964-1965. Coffers Full of Dollars, 1966. Box Office Dynamite, 1967 through 69. Nice play on words there too, because by that point, dynamite was a real big deal in these spaghetti westerns. That was about the time they started making a lot of the movies about the mercenaries. And then End of the Trail, 1970 to 1976. And boy, those spaghetti westerns from the 70s were a trip, because some of them had these soft rock film scores where, you know, you're watching the movie and you got some guy singing some soft rock song that's basically recapping the plot that's unfolding in front of your eyes. It's really cool. So a good example of that is Four of the Apocalypse, which was directed by Lucio Fulci, who's most famous for his horror movies, and especially Zombie, which was the one where the shark fights the zombie. If you haven't seen it, you should. Spaghetti Westerns, introducing the gang. The storekeeper looked up. Silhouetted in the open doorway stood a man, his face hidden by the lowered brim of his battered Stetson. The stranger paused to take a long drag on the cigar clenched between his teeth as he slowly raised his head to stare at the proprietor. The storekeeper caught sight of the stranger's stubbled, sunburnt face and his piercing cold eyes. Ominously, with the clink of spurs, the figure walked to the counter. Unnerved, a bead of sweat rolled down the storekeeper's brow as he spluttered, "What, can I get you, sir?" For a moment, the stranger held his gaze in silence. Then he replied in a low, whispering drawl, "Do you have a bullet for the general? Or a pistol for Ringo?" The storekeeper looked perplexed. "I'm sorry, we don't sell guns, sir," he answered. "This is a DVD shop." There was a video store on the square here in Texas about 20 years ago, owned by Joe Dodd. I think it was called Downtown Video, which I thought was a great name for a video store. And he was really wonderful. He would let you check out as many movies as you wanted. He would waive your late fees. He was just a really cool old guy. But one of the things that was cool about it, and this was in the age of videotape still, there weren't DVDs then, but he had movies organized by director, which was the first time I'd ever seen that. You know, he had a section of movies directed by Woody Allen. He had a section of movies directed by Sergio Leone. He had a section of movies starring Clint Eastwood, you know, and I just thought that was so cool. It was this little cultural spot in town that rented movies to film lovers, and there were foreign films and musicals and documentaries and so on and so forth. Anyway, Joe Dodd, the owner, he's no longer with us, and that store's been gone for decades probably. It's probably been gone for 10 or 20 years, I don't know. You can't even find anything about it on the internet anymore, but it was really cool. Anyway, so that story reminded me of him and his store. Everything else on this shelf is a Larry McMurtry book. And one of the projects that I'm working on, these projects that I never talk about, but I'm starting to talk about a little bit more, is to read everything by Larry McMurtry. And so these are in no particular order because they weren't shelved in any particular order. But this is Dead Man's Walk. And I'm not going to read a paragraph from each of these because, you know, I might read a paragraph from one, but Larry McMurtry writes like Larry McMurtry writes, okay? But Dead Man's Walk is a prequel to Lonesome Dove. And so it stars Augustus McRae and Woodrow Call, but they're young Texas Rangers in this one. And this is a nice edition that I've got here. Apparently I bought it brand new. I mean, it's still trade paperback, but it's in great shape because it's never been read or anything like that. But I will read a paragraph from this one just to get us started. Matilda Jane Roberts was naked as the air. Known throughout South Texas as the Great Western, she came walking up from the muddy Rio Grande, holding a big snapping turtle by the tail. Matilda was almost as large as the skinny little Mexican Mustang Gus McRae and Woodrow Call were trying to saddle break. Call had the mare by the ears, waiting for Gus to pitch the saddle on her narrow back. But the pitch was slow in coming. When Call glanced toward the river and saw the Great Western in all her plump nakedness, he knew why. Young Gus McRae was by nature distractible. The sight of a naked 200-pound whore carrying a full-grown snapping turtle had captured his complete attention, and that of the rest of the Ranger troop as well. I really relate to Augustus McRae. The next book is, I bought this at a library sale, The Last Kind Words Saloon, which I know nothing about, but I'm assuming it's a Western. Larry McMurtry tells the story of the closing of the American frontier through the travails of two of its most immortal figures, Wyatt Earp and Doc Holliday. So I guess everybody who writes Westerns eventually writes a Doc Holliday novel and a Wyatt Earp novel, right? Anyway, this is short. It's only 223 pages, and it's in large text. It's perfect for an elderly man like me whose vision is starting to go. I think my vision's going to return after the chemo. A hat came skipping down the main street of long grass, propelled only by the wind, which was sharp for March. The hat was brown felt and had a narrow brim. Nice. Okay, so this one's cool. This is Dwayne's Depressed, which I think is a really strange name for a novel by Larry McMurtry. And this is part of the series that included The Last Picture Show in Texasville. Okay, so The Last Picture Show is obviously famous because of the movie, but they did make a sequel called Texasville, which was filmed and was also a novel and was not well received. It came out, I think, in the 80s or whatever. But I have no idea how good this is going to be. Oh, it looks like somebody wrote in it. How weird. I got this at the library sale too, I think, though. Maybe not. I don't know. Yeah, this is first edition, copyright 1999. I would have thought after Texasville was such a critical failure that he wouldn't write anymore, but he did. Yeah, Dwayne Moore's in his 60s in this one. I love how McMurtry does that. He'll take a character who was in his 20s and follow him throughout his life. It's really cool to me. All the sequels and stuff. Comanche Moon, the final volume of the Lonesome Dove saga. Okay, so if I'm not mistaken, this is the sequel to Lonesome Dove. Okay, no. This is another prequel because it's got Augustus McRae and Woodrow Call in their middle years, just beginning to deal with the perplexing tensions of adult life. Gus and his great love, Clara Forsyth, Call and Maggie Tilton, the young horde loves him. They're searching for Buffalo Hump, a great Comanche war chief, and Kicking Wolf, a Comanche horse thief. So this looks cool. I don't know. You know, I've only read Lonesome Dove, and I absolutely loved it. It was just as great as everyone always said. And I was talking with my friend Steve Donahue about it, and he told me the other 3 books in the series were a real disappointment. He said none of them capture the magic of the first one. But nonetheless, Juneau on the Range is coming up. I do like Larry McMurtry. I'm planning to read all his books anyway. So I am going to make this my big reading project for Juneau on the Range. And it is called Streets of Laredo. And this is the sequel to Lonesome Dove, okay? So this is the story that comes afterwards. And I believe it involves Captain Call being a bounty hunter. And it's a solid novel. It's 589 pages. So this will This would easily take up all of June in terms of Westerns, but I've also got a really cool stack of Louis L'Amours in the other room that were sent to me by Jim over at Mystery and Mayhem, and I'm probably going to read a lot of those during June on the Range too. So let's see what else. I've got one final book from this bookshelf tour. Buffalo Girls by Larry McMurtry. Beautiful cover here. I don't live far from Archer City. It's about 2 hours from here. Let's see, what's this about? Okay, so it tells me what Lonesome Dove is about and Anything for Billy. That was back when they'd advertised their other books. This is about Calamity Jane. Cool. So, that concludes bookcase number 1, bookshelf number 2. And there are 2 more shelves on that bookcase over there, and I'm looking at it. So we're going to talk about some Robert E. Howard books next. And we're going to talk about some Star Trek novels next. And there's a whole bunch of random stuff over there next. So you can look for another bookshelf tour video soon. Until then, stay sexy, stay hydrated.